All right, let's talk about depression. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on depressive disorders. We're going to get past all the myths and really dig into what's going on, what the science says, and, most importantly, how it's treated.
Okay, so first things first, let's clear up a massive misunderstanding. Feeling sad is not the same thing as having clinical depression. Not even close. Look, we all feel sad. It's a normal human response to loss or tough situations. But that sadness, it comes and goes. You can still laugh at a good joke. Clinical depression, though, that's a whole different animal.
So what's the tipping point? Where does that deep sadness cross the line and become an actual medical condition? Well, it's all about when those feelings stop being a temporary guest and start to basically move in and take over your entire life. And that right there is the key. Interfering with daily function. That's the phrase that changes everything. We're not talking about having a bad week. We're talking about a persistent state that gets in the way of your ability to work, to maintain relationships, to do, well, anything. And get this, depression is a full-body experience. It's not just in your head. The symptoms tend to group into 3 buckets. You've got the mood stuff, obviously. That relentless sadness, or this thing called anhedonia, which is just a fancy word for when you stop enjoying the things you used to love. Then, it hits you cognitively, messing with your focus and your sense of self-worth. And finally, it shows up in your body. Think crushing fatigue, sleep going haywire, or your appetite completely changing.
But here's where it gets even more complex. Depression isn't just one thing. It's really an umbrella term that covers a whole family of related but pretty distinct disorders.
And the variety is huge. You have major depressive disorder with these really intense episodes. You've got types caused by medications, or even a specific disorder for prolonged grief. But to really wrap our heads around the chronic side of things, let's zoom in on one type in particular.
This one's called persistent depressive disorder, or dysthymia. Don't think of it as a sudden thunderstorm. It's more like a constant gray, overcast sky that just never leaves. It's this chronic, lower-level depression that can hang around for years, sometimes even decades, making people just seem gloomy.
So this all leads to the million-dollar question, right? What actually causes depression? Why do some people get it and others don't? Well, there's no simple one-word answer. It's a web. Yeah, you can forget about finding a single depression gene or blaming one bad event. It just doesn't work that way. The best way to think about it is like a 3-legged stool. You've got your genetics, your unique brain chemistry, and all your life experiences. It's how these 3 things interact that really creates the risk.
And genetics are a big piece of the puzzle. Researchers estimate that the heritability, basically how much your genes contribute, is somewhere between 30 and 50%. Now, that doesn't mean your genes have sealed your fate. Not at all. It just means they might have written the first draft. It's a big reason this so often runs in families.
And interestingly, it doesn't impact everyone equally. Take the US, for example. In any given year, women are diagnosed almost twice as often as men. Scientists figure it's a complicated mix of biological factors like hormones combined with different social pressures and stressors.
But remember what I said, genetics are not destiny. For someone who might already be genetically predisposed, it's often a major life event that acts as the trigger, things like long-term stress, a big loss, or trauma. These experiences can basically flip a switch and set off a depressive episode.
Okay, so you've got this super complex mix of factors. How does a doctor or a therapist possibly figure it all out? Well, it's not guesswork. It's a really careful, methodical process. It's a very deliberate, step-by-step approach. First, they do a really thorough evaluation of symptoms, what they are, how bad they are, how long they've been around. Then they match those symptoms against the official criteria in what's called the DSM-5-TR. Think of it as the official rule book that makes sure all professionals are on the same page. And finally, and this is so important, they have to rule out other medical causes. A wonky thyroid or a B12 deficiency can sometimes look a lot like depression, so they'll run tests to be sure.
And now we get to what is, without a doubt, the most important message here today. Depression is a treatable medical condition. There is absolutely hope, and there are many effective science-backed ways to get better. Now, there is no magic pill. Treatment is never one size fits all. It's all about finding the right tool from the toolbox, or, more often, the right combination of tools. The main ones are psychotherapy and medication. But you also have other powerful options like brain stimulation or even light therapy for seasonal affective disorder. Psychotherapy, or talk therapy, is just a massive cornerstone of recovery. One of the most effective types is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
The whole idea here is to give you practical skills. You learn to spot the destructive thought patterns that are fueling the depression, challenge them, and then change them. It's like learning mental self-defense.
And after decades and decades of research, the conclusion is pretty clear. For many, many people, the most effective strategy is hitting it from two sides, a combination of medication and therapy. The medication helps address the brain's biology, getting things on a more even keel, while therapy gives you the long-term skills to manage your thoughts and behaviors. It's a powerful 1-2 punch.
So really, it all comes down to this. Depression is an illness. It's not a personal failing, and it's not a character flaw, and it can be treated. The more we all understand just how complex it is, the better we'll be at fighting that stigma and encouraging people to get help. It helps us build communities that can actually support recovery. So that kind of leaves us with a question to chew on. How can we all do a better job of supporting people on that path?